Hi, I'm Dr. Larry Malerba, and welcome to the All Things Homeopathy YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me. By the way, did you ever stop to wonder what the risks versus the benefits really means? No doubt you've heard doctors and medical researchers use the phrase. Of course, we most often hear it said that the benefits far outweigh the risks, especially in reference to various pharmaceuticals and surgical procedures. Rarely do we ever hear that the risks of some medical innovation are too great to bear. And it makes it sound even more scientific when it's referred to as a risk benefit analysis that yields a risk benefit ratio. Whenever medical science presents information in terms of quantities or percentages, it always lends an aura of scientific authority and concreteness to the claims being made. And scientists know darn well that people tend to be dazzled whenever math is involved. Most people interpret math as a sign of certainty in science. Nevertheless, I often wonder how credible or certain a scientific assertion can be when it has to be framed in terms of percentages and probabilities. I found this rather interesting definition from one source. Quote, risk-benefit analysis is analysis that seeks to quantify the risks and benefits and hence their ratio. Now here's the kicker. Analyzing a risk can be heavily dependent on the human factor, unquote. I'm not sure why the definition doesn't include the fact that analyzing a benefit can also be heavily dependent on the human factor. So what they're really saying is that it's not as scientific as it may sound. It ultimately comes down to a subjective factor. It's a judgment call. It's not really a scientific measurement. In fact, it's completely arbitrary because no two people are ever going to agree on what it is that constitutes an acceptable risk or what constitutes an adequate benefit for that matter. Risk depends upon the specific circumstances and is relative to the perception of the individual involved. I guarantee you that my standards of acceptable risk and adequate benefits are going to be completely different from yours. The reality is that the risks versus the benefits is a gimmick used by the medical establishment to justify whatever it is that they want to justify. It's a rationalization designed to downplay the dangers of various conventional medical treatments and interventions. You have to ask yourself, why is it that we need to assess risks and benefits? The obvious answer is because most conventional medical therapies are inherently risky. No matter how favorable the benefit to risk ratio, someone will inevitably be injured or harmed. Do we resign ourselves to accepting the possibility of a serious adverse event when the risk is 1 in 10,000? How about 1 per 1,000? Do we draw the line at 10 in 1,000? Or do we obediently swallow the Kool-Aid every time we're assured that the benefits outweigh the risks? The risks versus the benefits constitutes a very slippery slope indeed. Another reason why it's a slippery slope is because over time, modern medicine employs increasingly powerful drugs and technologies. Regardless of the dangers involved, we're supposed to suspend our powers of judgment and submit to the authority of the medical experts. The truth is that it boils down to a form of medical roulette. You bet on the probability that you will survive intact and that you'll come away unscathed. But what I want to know is, why do we have to accept a medical system that involves so much risk that we have to be tricked into believing in its benefits by claiming that those benefits outweigh the risks? In fact, given our experiences with homeopathy and other alternative forms of holistic healing, why do we have to accept any risk at all? Those who know homeopathy understand that there's no need to assess risks and benefits because the risks are minuscule. They're virtually nil. Of course, this begs the question, given that there's no risk, why is homeopathy so vilified by mainstream medicine? That would be because they're terrified of homeopathy and they will not tolerate anything that threatens their monopoly on healthcare. Now, I'm not saying that there's never a reason to take a drug or to undergo a surgical procedure. Sometimes such measures are absolutely necessary. What I am saying is that you mustn't be fooled or lulled to sleep by deceptive tactics designed to downplay the hazards associated with conventional medical care. So, next time you hear someone utter the phrase, the benefits far outweigh the risks, be sure to take that claim with a very large grain of salt. Okay, thanks for tuning in. I hope to see you next time, and may the vital force be with you.